Welcome, everyone, to the Premier Collectibles live signing with Scottie Pippen, who is here in the house and signing copies of his new memoir, Unguarded. Thank you to everybody who stopped by Premier Collectibles, Scottie's Facebook page, and is watching on YouTube. My name is Adam Fluke, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Scottie for over 15 years now, and I couldn't be happier to introduce the man himself, the Hall of Famer, the six-time champion, and one of the greatest ever to play the game. Scottie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. First of all, I want to thank Premier Collectible for giving me this opportunity, giving me this stage to be able to sign some plays for my fans out there who are enjoying reading my memoir, Unguarded. Thank you, and thank you, Adam.
My pleasure. Scottie, I know you're in New York this past week. Where are you coming to today?
I'm in Nashville today. I was in New York for a couple of days and promoting the book Monday and Tuesday, and came down to Nashville to watch my son, who those who do not know is the point guard for the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Okay, and I hear you're hanging out with that country music scene as well.
Yeah, I had a great time. I was here for the after parties of the CMAs on Wednesday night as well. So I had an opportunity to hang out with some country stars and a few celebrities, and it was a great evening.
Okay. Well, as everybody knows, we are here to talk about Unguarded, and signed copies of the book, which Scottie has been signing for a while today, are available at premiercollectibles.com/unguarded. And if you're watching live, you can also click below. Scottie, I know you had wanted to do some public signings, but COVID continues to kind of complicate our lives. Why is it so important for you to do this and give your fans a chance to get an autographed copy of the book?
Well, I mean, I think that, your career goes by so fast, and a lot of times fans don't get that opportunity to, get a piece of the glorified career that you've had. And I think that I've had a pretty glorifying career playing with the Bulls, and I think that this was my opportunity to really, be able to get my memoir out and let people know a little bit about who Scottie Pippen is, what he was doing before he started with the Chicago Bulls.
So let's talk a little bit about the book itself. I love the title of the book. I know you do too. I see the shirt with Unguarded across the front and the background. You've been away from the game for a number of years now. What made right now the right time to tell your side of the story?
Well, I think it's something that I always wanted to do, but I think, just over the last few months, going through the pandemic and I guess watching the Last Dance, I think that, there were some things that was put into the Last Dance that I felt like wasn't given that team of that era the credit that they deserve. And, I think for all of my career that, a lot of the video footage and things that you see was a lot of it was controlled by Michael and the way that he wanted to be portrayed. And so I think that this was an opportunity for me to tell my side of, what I felt like the team was in the 90s, and give some credit to us as a team, give credit to individuals who are well deserving, and to kind of shine a light a little bit more on a way of glorifying our team, not an individual.
And so let's start with that. The book opens up with your reaction to The Last Dance and talks about some of the dialogue you had with Michael. And it seems like it's not a lack of appreciation for his greatness. Again, as you said, it's a matter of lifting up some of those other guys and talking about a team game. And you played with some Hall of Fame players, and Dennis Rodman and Tony Kukoc, with a lot of really key role guys, BJ Armstrongs, Ron Harpers, Horace Grants. How important was the rest of that group in terms of the overall success of your teams?
Well, I think it's very important. I think as a player who's played and received a lot of accolades. I think you have to realize that, there was a reason why you achieved a lot of those things that you achieved. Guys made sacrifice. Guys did what they had to do to make sure that the team was successful. And I think as a great player, you should praise those players. We as superstars can't forget the little people, and I don't want to even consider them little people. I got, two other Hall of Famers that was on that team besides myself and Michael. Horace Grant may be a Hall of Famer here in the future. So I just felt like, for people to consider that Chicago Bulls team one of the greatest teams ever, especially the '96 team, that we didn't get the respect that we got for what we accomplished. I didn't feel like that was played out right in the last dance. I felt like it was really about Michael feeling like that he dominated basketball in the '90s, and I was far from trying to believe the story that he was trying to sell people.
And so everybody knows you primarily for your time with the Bulls, and we'll get back to that with some of these fan questions. But in the book, you talk a lot about growing up in Hamburg, Arkansas, and eventually walking on to the University of Central Arkansas. Those are stories that a lot of people maybe don't know about in terms of a very humble upbringing, but also in terms of the fact that you were 6'1", 6'2" as a high school senior and didn't have a single college scholarship offer. So how did those years shape who you were as a player, but also who you are as a person today?
Well, I mean, I think that my family probably shaped me more as who I am as a person. The humble, caring and sharing. I think that all comes from being the youngest of 12 kids and having to sort of play your role and know where you really fit in. And I think it sort of carried over to my basketball career, carried over to the way that I played the game. And I think it gave me success for
Okay, before we get into fan questions, I want to ask you a little bit about what else is going on in your professional world. I know recently in the last year or so, you teamed up with Dave Finney and Savage and Cook to launch a bottle of bourbon here. And how's that gone so far? What's the reception been like? And what's the journey been like for you?
It's been great. I think I was working with ESPN, and right before the documentary came out, I didn't want to get behind it and start promoting it. I ended up leaving ESPN and started to be a little bit more of an entrepreneur. And as you said, I partnered up with Dave Finney. I created a bourbon. I guess we created a bourbon together, and we've been promoting it here for the last 6 months. We launched it in Chicago, and it's done very well in that market, a strong market for me. So I felt like that was the best place to start. But it's done real well, and we're looking to take it to a national level here in the next couple months. But beyond that, we've also were able to do a collaboration with Smith Tea out of Portland, Oregon, where I played for 4 years. So Smith Tea will be doing some bourbon tea for us. So it'll be my first time trying some bourbon tea, and I'm glad that I'm experiencing it from my own bourbon. But that should be coming out here in the next few weeks as well. And I'm involved with some snacks as well. I'm got some popcorn brands called Hoss, and as well as we got a brand called Vimpop. So I've been on the go and staying busy, but it's been an exciting
Well, that's
time.
great to hear. And it's definitely nearing bourbon season and also tea season. So the timing is right on the money for that.
Yes, thank you.
Well, let's get to some of these fan questions. We've got a bunch of people who have submitted. Are you ready to answer a few?
Oh, yes.
All right. We're going to start out with Alex from Janesville, Wisconsin. He says, Scottie, what do you think is the most important factor to become a successful championship team?
Wow. Well, that's a great question. I think the most important is the sacrifice from a team standpoint. Um, I think, there's a lot of great players in our game, and a lot of players can be even greater than where they are. But it takes sacrifice. It takes playing the game the right way. It takes making the right decisions. Um, Sacrifice, your body, opportunities to do the best and want the best for your team.
Okay. Brandon in Midville, Georgia wants to know, was there a certain topic in Unguarded that was the hardest to open up and write about, and why?
I think it was a tough topic for me, really talking about relive my childhood, from my brother being paralyzed to my father who suffered a stroke. I think those were probably some of the toughest moments for me to have to go through. The other stuff, the basketball stuff, was pretty easy, pretty downhill, more relevant to me, I guess, to some degree. But, being a young kid and talking about my life from 3 to, going all the way up into college, those were moments where I got a lot of help from my family, but there were also moments where it was tough for me to really talk about.
Okay. Steve from Henderson, Nevada wants to know what you enjoy doing for fun in retirement. And he's also wondering if there's ever a chance of seeing you on the sidelines as a coach.
Well, you're probably not going to see me on the sideline as a coach, but I enjoy life right now. I enjoy being outside. It's pretty early fall here, so I'm in Nashville, and it makes me want to get to Arkansas and do some hunting. So I enjoy being outside, enjoy the outdoors, especially in the summer. I'm a golfer, so I enjoy being on the golf course as well. But in the winter months, I try to, enjoy the outdoors as well. I got a farm back in Arkansas with some Black Angus cows on it, so I enjoy spending time there as well where I grew up.
All right. We've got a bunch of international global fans who have chimed in with some questions. First up is Drew
Great.
from Greenvale, Australia. And he wants to know if you still have those famous red Nikes from the 1994 NBA All-Star game, which of course you were named MVP in, and where do those rank amongst your favorite shoes that you wore?
Well, they were my favorite. I got to say it was a little different for me to break those red shoes out, but I think it started a bit of a trend. You see a lot of that in the game now, and but it was great. I won my All-Star Game MVP in those shoes, and they're still around. I know where they are.
That's all that matters. All right, we've
Yeah.
got Jordan K from South San Francisco. He's wondering which NBA star of today's game would you have loved to have the challenge of guarding?
Probably it'd be LeBron James. And I say that in a respectful way. He's probably been one of the greatest players that I've seen in the game, that I respect the way that he played the game, the value of how he approached the game. He's not a player that plays selfish. He plays the game the right way, even though he's still one of the most dominant players to ever play the game.
Okay. Next up, we have Gabriel from Arlington Heights. He asked, throughout your distinguished career, who made you laugh the most and why? And I assume he means teammates. I know you had some teammates with pretty good senses of humor.
Yeah, well, I'd probably say all the power forwards that I played with were pretty funny guys. I would start with probably Charles Oakley, even though he was looked at as a bully. He was a funny guy. And probably Horace Grant. We became very good friends after being drafted, to the Chicago Bulls in '87. And the other one, even though you think he's quiet, would probably be Dennis, but he was more comical during the game. within the lines as to how he would, compete against his opponent, things that he would do to them. And the next day, he had the audacity to even talk about it and laugh about it. But those were just games that Dennis played within the game.
Yeah. We've got John from Union City, New Jersey. As we all know, super teams are now a thing in today's game. He's asking if super teams were a thing in the 90s. Are there teams or players outside of that Bulls group that you would have wanted to join forces with?
Well, I wouldn't want to join forces with anybody. I would say that super teams probably existed back when I played, but they were put together differently. Like, guys didn't really buddy up. There were no relationships where guys really talked to each other and decided to, join forces. It wasn't like the guys from the '92 Dream Team decided to join forces and go try to win a title. None of those guys really had that kind of mindset or had that kind of relationship. But I think as we look back over those years, especially the Chicago Bulls team with Dennis, you could say that was a super team, but we didn't really go out and build that team. We were organically built. I was drafted there. Michael was drafted there. And Dennis really was the only free agent. But, three great players to me make a super team. So that's my answer on that.
It's a good answer. We've got Joel from Charleston, Indiana. Wants to know if you have any personal heroes, whether that was growing up or present day.
Well, I mean, I had guys that I idolize. I think heroes is a little far stretch for me. My heroes are my parents, but there were players in the game that I idolize, and guys on the Dream Team, Magic, Larry. I watched those guys coming up, and as I was in college, as well as high school. I mean, those were guys that I admired and looked up to.
Okay. We've got Cameron from Liberty, Missouri, wants to know what was more challenging, taking on this book project or guarding Magic Johnson?
Probably guarding Magic Johnson. We were trying to win our first title, and that was pretty challenging. But I can't take all the credit for writing this book. I'll take all the blame, but I can't take all the credit. But I had a lot of teammates, friends, family that helped me put this story together. It's probably 35, 40 plus year story. So it was hard for me to, do it all by myself.
Okay.
That's why teams win, not individual. But I appreciate
to apply to everything.
Yes.
We've got Devin from Franklin, West Virginia, wants to know what the favorite shoe was that you wore and what's your favorite non-Pippen shoe, if you've got a go-to pair of kicks, knowing how big that industry has become.
Yeah, well, I kind of missed out on the kick business, but I would probably say my Pippen ones were my first shoe. I mean, it was my first signature shoe. So, but I was never, and even now, big on the shoe game. I think it has definitely grown over the last 10, 15 years.
No doubt. We've got Rick from Belgium, and you kind of touched on this a moment ago, but he wants to know who inspired you as a young athlete. So when you came into the league in '87, were there guys in the late '70s or maybe early '80s that you kind of took note of their game?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of glad I got a chance to kind of clean that last answer up, because I really admired the way Dr. J played. He was probably the first NBA player that I really wanted to be like. I admired the way that he played the game, his unselfishness, his athleticism. He was every child's dream, at one time to his career, playing in the ABA and then going into the NBA. he had a great career and a great journey along the way. And I was able to really educate myself about him. And he was one of those players that I wanted to play against because I really looked up to him. And he retired the year before I came in the league.
So you never had a chance to go one-on-one or head-to-head?
No, not even with him in uniform. Missed out.
All right, we've got another international question here. Filippo from Italy wants to know what's the best chapter of the book to read while drinking a glass of digits. And I'm not sure how he knows about digits because it's not in Italy yet. It speaks to the power of your brand and your reach.
Well, it does. Well, I mean, I think our 18 chapters are great to read and sip on digits. It's a very easy read, but I enjoy telling the story about my upbringing and really letting those out there who have any doubt about their dreams that, you know, never to give up and to believe in yourself and to work hard.
Next up, we've got David from Cottage Grove, Minnesota. He is asking who the toughest player to play against was. Now, you talked about Dr. J. You didn't get a chance to go against him, but who are some of the guys that gave you the most trouble back in the day?
Well, I mean, I always go and say Adrian Dantley. You know, Detroit was pretty tough. That was the hugest obstacle that I had to really overcome in my early days in my career. And probably Dominique Wilkins, who was, you know, one of the top scorers in the game, who used to go back and forth with Michael in terms of who's going to be the top scorer in the league back then. So they were very good players, very experienced guys that had the green light. So at any given night, it could be a tough night guarding those guys.
We got Steve from Melbourne, Australia, wants to know if you weren't a professional basketball player, what would have you done for your career?
I don't know. I mean, I've always been involved in athletics. You know, I felt great in every sport that I ever played, from baseball to football. So I get that question asked a lot as to what would I be doing, but I think I would be in athletics somewhere. As you asked earlier, Adam, about coaching, maybe I would be coaching another sport or involved in it somehow, if not basketball.
All right, next up, we've got Martin from the United Kingdom, wants to know if there's an achievement that you are most proud of that is not basketball related.
I would say achieving my degree. Went back after you know, many years in the league and finished my degree in college. And that's probably one of the most important things that was important to me in terms of after I made it into the league, is that I wanted to go back and get my degree.
Okay. We've got Helen from the United Kingdom, says she was a massive fan and wants to know, was Dennis Rodman as outrageous as the media made him out to be, and what was it like working with him?
No, he wasn't outrageous. I think it was all, part of the video sale of The Last Dance. But Dennis was a great teammate. He was reliable, dependable, and as we all know, he was one of the greatest, you know, on both ends of the basketball court. And, you know, I considered him a great, really enjoy it and embrace the opportunity of playing with.
Next up, we've got John from Australia. He wants to know where the famous dunk over Patrick Ewing in the 1994 playoff ranks amongst your favorite memories, and whether or not you have a poster of that at home.
Well, no, I do not have a poster of it, but it's definitely one of my fondest memory in the game. I had a lot of fun playing in the Garden, playing against the Knicks, and obviously that dunk took place in Chicago, but because it was on a New York Knicks player, that is definitely one of my highlights of my career.
We've got Ricardo from Puerto Rico, wants to know how you define success in life.
Well, there's many ways of describing success, but I think success is for you as an individual to be able to look into the mirror and tell yourself that you gave your all. Um, I think that's part of success is knowing that you did your best and you gave your all to achieve what you wanted.
Okay, we've got Michael from the United Kingdom. He says, in your era, you were known to be one of the best defenders. How do you feel about the way the game has changed and that contact is not allowed nearly as much and the offensive players have a little more freedom, especially on the perimeter, to kind of do their thing?
Well, I mean, I love it. I like the step that they took in terms of opening the game a little bit more to make it more of a scores game, to give shooters more freedom to shoot the basketball from anywhere on the court. So I got to say it's been great watching basketball be a game where guys can really focus on shooting the basketball from all over the floor, and it has increased the scoring and made it more exciting. So I didn't have an opportunity to, be a part of this era, but I think it's great basketball and it's enjoyable to watch.
Juan from Frisco, Texas wants to know which NBA championship meant the most to you and why.
I would probably say winning my first championship against the Lakers in 1991, beating the Showtime Lakers. I think that was a highlight just to be playing against the Lakers and the Bulls. It was definitely a great headliner. Growing up as a young kid, I've always had the opportunity to watch the Lakers and watch them play in the finals. So I felt like that it was only fitting to be playing against the Lakers when you going for a title, and that was a great NBA Finals to be our first one.
No doubt. Joshua from Singapore wants to know if there was anything in particular that kept you going and kept you just being so driven over the years.
I think the thing that kept me going is that I wanted to be the best, and I always wanted to win. So I did the things that I felt like I needed to do to maintain that stature or to earn that type of stature. And just staying focused, continue to work, and never being satisfied with where you are.
All right, we've got Danielle from Australia. She says, who do you think was the most underrated player you competed against? And I'll say, let's say, who was the most underrated player on some of your Bulls teams as well?
Wow. Well, it's a tough question. I mean, people that I played against, I would. That's a tough one. I'm not trying to shed any light on anybody, so I don't really know. But from a teammate standpoint, I think looking back at my team, a lot of the guys lost a little bit of credit or importance that they played to our team. Even looking back at, someone like a Jack Haley, who, was basically like our 12th or 13th man on our team, but his role on our team was very important because he was a very good practice player. He was very competitive. And he was one of those guys that were very supportive and helpful in terms of keeping Dennis occupied and, making sure like Dennis stayed in the circle and that he didn't feel everybody plays a role in it. That's the importance of team sport, is that everybody has to carry their own weight. Some people carry a little bit more than others, but there's a place for everybody. That's why it's a team sport.
We've got Chris from Ocean Grove in Australia wants to know a little bit about the impact Phil Jackson had on those 6 championship teams and how differently things could have been if you played for another coach in another system.
Well, it was different. Doug Collins was there, and he had pretty much the same team. So it definitely would have been different. But I thought Phil made a a huge impact, a huge jump in terms of when he took over as a head coach, changing the offense, getting into an offense that was more predicated on us being more of a team. I felt like in the early years, just with the hoopla of how Michael was scoring and shooting the basketball, that team was not headed in the right direction. I felt like that it was more of a team that was just looking at an individual to score a lot of points every night, and they were losing. And until Phil took over and really came in and, wasn't afraid of putting his foot down and letting guys know that they needed to play the game the right way. They needed to trust their teammates. They needed to share the basketball. That was what really changed us.
Marlon in Osaka, Japan is curious to know about your seasons with the Portland Trailblazers. You guys came very, very close to making it all the way to the NBA Finals. Talk about, that team and that season, and how it was unforgettable in spite of not bringing home the hardware at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, that was a very very talented team. I think you probably heard me say it before. It's probably one of the most talented teams that I ever played with. But sometimes too much talent is not a good thing. And in that situation, it really wasn't a good thing because our chemistry wasn't great. Even though guys tried to make it work, it just wasn't there. And I think in the end, sort of self-destruct. We didn't have the right leadership. That may be my fault. But that team had just been put together, and we just didn't have the right time to put it together. Sometimes it takes more than a season to get a team to bond and to play the right way and to get everything working. We ended up having a great season there, my first year there, but after that, we started trading players, and we just never got back to that type of level.
So in addition to the 6 NBA championships, you won a pair of Olympic gold medals. Ivan from New Jersey just wants to get your take on how the 92 Dream Team and then the 96 Dream Team would have measured up if they had a chance to go head to head.
Well, the 92 Dream Team was more of older players, probably more experience, better understanding of team play. It was a different team. That team was very unselfish and very willing to lift each other up. My 96 team was a bit different. Players were more or less trying to figure out how they could be glorified on a international stage. It was different because myself, I had already been a part of 3 championship teams, so I had global recognition, and the game was in Atlanta at that time. So a lot of the players that was on that second team was trying to, and not in a negative way, but they were to get their name known on an international level as well. And I think that the team kind of suffered a little bit from it. Even though we ended up winning the gold medal, that team wasn't as unselfish or as good as the 92 team.
All right, next up is Robert from Hoopeston, Illinois. He wants to know what led to you deciding to wear the number 33.
Well, I think it was just a childhood, growing up, watching Larry Bird, watching Abdul-Jabbar, that the number was fitting, and I couldn't get 23, so I went with 33.
Okay. Sam from Canada says, I know you've smoked a few cigars over your life, do you have a favorite smoke or a brand that's your go-to?
Are you going to send me any?
You'd have to ask Sam.
Uh, I smoke Cubans. I love just a nice robusto Cuban cigar. I don't really smoke a lot of cigars now. I did them more or less back when I was winning, whether it was a gold medal or winning an NBA championship. But occasionally I'll smoke one out on the golf course.
Okay. Kelly from Indianapolis just wants to know how you handle kind of the demands of being famous, whether it's the pros or the cons. You know, for someone who doesn't live a day in your shoes, what are your thoughts on sort of everything that comes with it?
I just think just live your life and be honest. You got nothing to hide. You got nothing to be ashamed of. And, you know, just feel like you just got to speak out and not feel like you're hurting anybody's feelings. If you're speaking the truth, you shouldn't.
Yeah. Jennifer from Indian Head Park wants to know if you'll always consider Chicago your home, and what else do you like about the city other than the sports scene?
Well, I love everything about that city. I mean, I look at it as a place that kind of helped me grow and develop as a man. I consider it my home. I spent as much time there as I did as a kid growing up in Arkansas, and I've a lot of great memories there, playing in Chicago Stadium, United Center, celebrations at Grand Park. I just love the city. I think it's beautiful, great lakefront. The summers are just unbelievable. Too bad they don't last long, but it's a great city, and yes, I will always consider it my home.
Jason from McKee, Kentucky says, if you could do your NBA career all over again, would you do it the same or would you change something?
I wouldn't change anything. I had a great career. Not too many people can say that they had the type of career that I had. I played in a lot of playoff games, finals, being part of the dream team and being part of the second dream team as well. For a kid to come from Hamburg, Arkansas, I change anything.
Okay. We'll wrap this up with a final question here. Sam from Stony Creek in Ontario, Canada says, no matter what the last dance said, your fans know and respect you and give you all the credit you deserve. What were some of the takeaways that you wanted to share with your book and from your story for people who may have followed you closely, but may have just watched from afar and kind of just enjoyed your career from a distance?
Well, I mean, I think that, The Last Dance doesn't give any of the guys on the team the credit that we deserve. I felt like that basketball is a team sport and that you should always glorify the guy beside you, the guy that's across the way, because it really is a team sport. And at times we tend to glorify players that are outstanding players in the game, and we tend to forget that it is a team game. But I think in the end, and as you read through the book, that I was the ultimate teammate to a team that was successful, and that was what I set out to do, and successful.
Okay. Any closing words to those watching? I know we got a bunch of people who've been following along and spent some of their afternoon with us. What do you want to say to them?
Thank you for joining us here today, and hopefully I can get back on and do this again with Premier Collectible. This has been a great thing to do, an opportunity to, reach out to my fans, but also, without the ability to be in front of them in the book signing, this couldn't be any better to have the opportunity to communicate. And just want to say thank you guys for joining in. And again, thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Scottie, for being here. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Again, you can grab your signed copy of Unguarded at premiercollectibles.com/unguarded and enjoy the story of one of basketball's greatest. Thanks again for joining us.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.